Hello, and welcome to the Leisurely Learning Texthelp PDF Reader series. In this series, we will go over in depth how to use the various parts of the Texthelp PDF Reader to best support your students. In this video, we will be reviewing how to ensure that all PDFs are accessible so that students can make use of all of the features of the Texthelp Reader. So I'm going to start a little bit differently this video, and I just want to talk about accessibility in general. So accessibility when it comes to paper or online worksheets or anything online has to do with how the students read it and understand it. And I want to talk particularly about fonts. So here's a good example of something that is not accessible. And I'm not picking on any particular resource or anything like that, but I have seen a lot of this kind of thing that people have created and they've downloaded because they need resources, and that's fantastic. But it's really not the best in terms of accessibility. So this in particular is targeted to students in grade 3 to 5. And it tends to be, especially our younger students, the ones who struggle the most with reading. So if we go in here and we look, there's about 3 different types of fonts here. And I want to talk about this one in particular because this is probably the most important. And the issue I'm having with this one is that it's got upper and lowercase letters. Some of the letters are smaller. They're differently spaced, so these two are really close together and these two are quite far apart. Some of them are crooked, right? And so if I'm a struggling reader, all of these pieces put together are going to make it difficult for me to access the text and increase my understanding. And you can see, unfortunately, it's like that on several pages, right? And I will admit these are titles, so they're probably not the most important pieces. But again, it's something that we want our students to have access to. So when you're looking for resources online, I'm really going to ask that you look for resources that use a consistent, readable font. And if you're not finding resources like that, please connect with the creator of the resource and ask them for an accessible version of it. And it's when we start asking for these things that more of these creators will start creating them. And that's really what we need to do for our students to make their work easier. So what I want to do now is talk about when we get an inaccessible document from a computer perspective. So here we have a document that I downloaded from the internet. And when I open it in the Texthelp PDF Reader, I get this message. And it says, we can't find any text in this document. It may not have been scanned using OCR. So let's talk about what that means. And it really comes down to the file type. So this is a PDF, and PDF stands for a picture document file. What that means is you're basically looking at a picture. So it doesn't have any text in it. So what an OCR program does, or an optical character recognition program does, is it goes into that picture and it looks for common shapes and tries to identify them as letters. So then once it's identified a letter, it starts to identify words and then sentences and eventually paragraphs. And again, this comes down to a lot of that font that I was talking about before. If you've got this really crazy font, if a human brain is going to have trouble interpreting that font, you can bet a computer, which is not nearly as smart as a human, is going to have trouble as well. So Texthelp PDF Reader is recommending we use Snapverter. Snapverter is a program created also by Texthelp, and we're going to use it, but we're going to start from the beginning. So we're going to open a new tab, and we're going to type in Snapverter. And we're going to start from here because we want to make sure it's installed on our computer. So we're actually not going to want the first couple here. We're going to look for the one that is Google Chrome. And in particular, we're looking for the one that says Web Store. So we're going to click on that. It's going to take us to the Chrome Web Store, and we want to make sure that it says Add to Chrome. If it says Visit Website, fantastic. It's already been installed. In our case, our district has installed it. If it says Add to Chrome, you're going to press on that Add to Chrome button, and then you're going to get a pop-up, and in that pop-up, you're going to press Add App. That will take you to the apps page. Because mine's already installed, I'm just going to pop over there. And here's my Snapverter app. Now I'm going to click on this app to enable the permissions. So it's going to pop up. I'm going to click on my GAPS account. Again, this product is attached to Google Read and Write. So you need to use your GAPS account to access it because then you can do it for free. I'm going to press allow. And it's going to open up into my dashboard. Fantastic. Now, I really don't use Snapverter from the dashboard. That's not how it works. So I'm going to close this. And I'm going to go over to my drive. And now you can see that I've installed it. In my drive, I have a file folder called Snapverter. And if I just click on that, you're going to see that there are 4 subfolders in here, and they're pretty straightforwardly labeled. So I'm going to just go back to Drive. And oh, I didn't want to do that. I'm just going to open that back up again. And I'm going to take my, my PDF, and I'm going to drag it into the file folder that says Drop Here to Convert. Now, depending on the size of your file, it will take some time to work through this OCR process. So while we wait for it, let's talk about the different files. So Drop Here to Convert is fairly straightforward. In Progress, it will end up in there when it's doing its work. Finished is where we're going to find it when it's done. And then I want to talk quickly about Failed. So most of the time, your documents will not end up in the failed folder. Where it might end up in the failed folder is if it's too large. So Snapverter has a limit of 20 megabytes. So if the file is larger than that, it won't work. Ours, I think, is a couple kilobytes. So it should be, yeah, it's 261 kilobytes. So it should be fine. And the other reason why it might end up in failed is, again, if you're dealing with a lot of really complicated font on a page, right, it's not going to be able to actually recognize any text on that page. And so it may end up in that failed folder. So we just have to wait for that to work. So we're just going to do that. Okay, so we've waited for it to be put in the finished folder. So now we have it in the finished folder. And once it's done in the finished folder, you don't have to leave it here. You can put it wherever you want. So I'm going to put it back into my drive. And I'm going to see it here. And now when I go to open this document, and I go to Open with Read and Write for Google Chrome, there we go. We no longer see that black bar. And if we were to come in here and use our click to speak.
My times of day, my name is yesterday. I got up.
All right. And it goes in and it reads the document for us, which is exactly what we wanted. So if you have any questions, just as always, make sure you use the link below to access the Texthelp Reader video question form. Be sure to leave your email so that we can respond to your question. Thank you for watching this video.